Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 Mods Weekly, the show where we take a look at some of the really cool and interesting mods that have come out in the past week for Fallout 4. And this week we've got a huge variety of mods, many different styles of mods today, so we have a lot to check out. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump in with the first mod, and that's going to be Zetans, Alien Invaders by RascalArt. Now this is an absolutely incredible mod. This is going to add an entirely new group of enemies that you can encounter in the Wasteland, and they are the Zetans. Now, we have seen Zetans in Fallout before, but this mod is going to introduce tons of new enemy types and new weapons that we have never seen. This is going to include some pretty basic Zetans, like the ones that you might find in the cave in vanilla Fallout 4, but also some new heavily armored variants, Zetans that use jetpacks and dual-wield pistols, Zetans that use the power of telekinesis, and even other species that aren't Zetans, including the Froggos, which are slaves of the Zetans used to fight their wars, which is pretty interesting. And you're not just going to get little basic Froggos, but you're even going to get Froggo mechs that are going to launch lobs of other Froggos at you, which is pretty crazy. I actually really enjoy that this mod introduces new enemies that spawn enemies to fight for them, making combat much more interesting and a little bit more difficult. As if the new enemies weren't enough, there's even a couple of new vehicles added in this mod that you can encounter and fight against as well, including the attack UFO and the transport UFO. The attack UFO is going to be much heavier in the weapons department, whereas the transport UFO is going to have a lot more health, but it's also going to spawn enemies to fight you, and it even has a couple of weapon systems on top of that. Now, all of these new enemies you encounter also carry their own weapons, and this is going to include the new Alien Pulse Rifle, which does take the Alien Blaster round, and also the new AE-9 Blaster Pistol, which is going to be a nice little laser pistol carried by the Froggos. Each of these weapons can be found in the Zetan level list, so you will be able to pick these up in combat, and they even have some attachments over at the weapons workbench. And my favorite part of these new weapons is that the fact that the Pulse Rifle uses Alien Blaster rounds, that means you can get new ammo for your Alien Blaster from the cave, rather than just being limited to the amount given to you in the vanilla game, so that's pretty cool. If you're looking for some fun new enemies to fight, this is definitely one worth checking out. It may be a bit goofy, but it is technically lore friendly since the Zetans are something we do encounter in the Fallout universe. So, if you want to check this one out, again, link down in the description below, just like every other mod in this video. Now, the next mod is not technically a new mod, but it did just receive an update, and that is the Skyrim Styles Levels mod by A Legend V1. This mod is incredible. It does a handful of things. First of all, it's going to change the way that you level up in Fallout. Rather than just being locked to general XP and then whatever stat your special score is, and then being able to upgrade your special score just by spending a perk point, now, in order to unlock perks, you actually have to use the ability that the perk requires. So, for example, if you want to level up your pistol perks, you need to use pistols. Think Skyrim. The more locks you pick, the better you become at lockpicking, and your skill will go up, and then you'll unlock more lockpicking perks. Just perfect. Now, it also takes these elements from Skyrim's leveling system and adds in the Fallout New Vegas style of perks. The perk menu now has been completely replaced with a new setup that I really enjoy. There are tons of perks listed, and the requirements will be locked by the Skyrim leveled skill system. Now, at first, the menu may be kind of daunting because it shows you absolutely every perk in the game, and there are a ton of new perks added with this mod, by the way, but if this is too much to look at, you can actually turn off all of the perks that you aren't eligible for, and it will just show you the ones that you are, and now this menu starts to look a whole lot like the New Vegas level up menu, which I really enjoy. I remember thinking of the perfect level system that incorporated pieces of New Vegas and pieces of Skyrim, and somebody actually did that, which is absolutely incredible, and this mod completely overhauls the RPG aspects of Fallout 4, and I think this is going to be a new must-have for anybody who really wants to feel like they're actually building a character, rather than just picking perks based off of skills they didn't even earn. Super incredible mod. I love the idea of it, and I think it makes the RPG aspects of Fallout 4 so much better, so definitely try this one out. Now, up next, we do have a brand new weapon mod, and this one is really cool because it's nice and lore friendly, and it's classic from past Fallout games, and that is the Plasma Defender by Alexerator. This is going to add a brand new take on the Plasma Defender from Fallout New Vegas, and I really like this one. This uses specifically the Fallout New Vegas design of the Plasma Defender, which is nice and boxy, has some cool little technical gubbins all over it, and it just looks really cool. I've always liked this design, and I always wanted a proper representation of it in Fallout 4. We did have the Glock 86 mod for Fallout 4 already, but it didn't have that same aesthetic as Fallout 4, so now you can use one or the other, or honestly, they look so different, you could use both. The Defender in this mod specifically, like I said, does look a lot like the classic version, though they did have to take some artistic liberties here and there, specifically in terms of the reload animations. There is no reload like the old plasma reloads from Fallout New Vegas yet, but the vanilla one works just as well, and honestly, I don't see any problems with it whatsoever. Of course, this weapon is added to the level list and can be found after level 15 on the Brotherhood of Steel, Gunners, and of course weapon vendors, and there's a ton of weapon attachments over at the weapons workbench. This even includes some of the scopes from my recently released West Tech Optics mod. I do have a full breakdown of this weapon if you want to check out all of the stats and every single attachment included in this mod. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked down in the description below as well. But honestly, go ahead and check this one out if you're a fan of classic weapons. This is an amazing new energy weapon for Fallout 4. Now up next we have a bite-sized little mod, and that's going to be the Rations and MREs mod by InvokerGray, JaggerMcCuinn, and JCruz05. This is going to add some new rations and MREs that you can consume in Fallout 4. It's just a nice little food mod that is really cool and offers these new items in a cool, lore-friendly way. Now, in case you're not aware, a ration or an MRE is a military-provided meal kit that allows soldiers to get the exact amount of food they need, and they typically have a really high shelf life, which is perfect for a post-apocalyptic game like this. Sadly, we didn't see any items like this in the base game. You would think in a world where the nuclear apocalypse was imminent that we would see more meal prep kits like this, especially in regards to the military, but we didn't have anything like that in the vanilla game. But with this mod, we have some really cool items added in a really nice way. You're going to get 4 new types of food that you can pick up. The first of which will be the sea rations. Now these are pretty typical rations and can be found almost anywhere. You can find them on raiders or gunners, and you can even find them in containers. Additionally, if you complete the Long Neck Lukowski quest without killing Theodore Collins, you'll also be able to craft these over at a cooking station because you learned the recipe, so that's pretty neat. Now, additionally, there are also K rations, and these can only be found on vendors, making them a bit more rare, but much like the last one, you can also craft them at the cooking station if you do that Long Neck Lukowski quest. Now up next is the MREs, the meal ready to eat. These are much more rare and actually prepared by the military and can be found on Brotherhood of Steel soldiers, which I think is very fitting. And then finally, we also get Vault-Tec MREs. This is going to be an MRE made by Vault-Tec, and these are going to be the rarest of all, and you can only find them on the food trader in Vault 81 because, you know, Vault-Tec, and also you can occasionally find them on Triggerman, since the Triggerman's home base is actually in a vault, and I think that's really cool and really fitting. If you're looking for some cool new lore-friendly food items in the form of MREs and rations, I think this is an excellent mod, and I think the way that it's integrated into the game is very nice. Now for our next couple mods, you will need a little bit of context. You may remember that pretty recently, there was a mod that came out known as Vault 120, and this added an underwater vault that was heavily Bioshock inspired. Whenever you went into this vault, you'd find a couple of new settlements and some really cool underwater aesthetics, and you had to clear out the place from a bunch of ghouls that were living there. But this next mod is going to replace the ghouls with a more fitting opponent, and that is Big Daddies in Vault 120 by Nietkopf. This is going to replace all of those ghouls that you would typically find in Vault 120 with Big Daddies as well as Big Sisters from the Bioshock franchise. This is going to use the models and assets from the old Submersible Power Armor mod and use those to add these cool new enemies into the location, making it a much more difficult area to clear out as these enemies put up quite a big fight. The Big Sisters have a pretty high HP pool and a pretty powerful little melee weapon, and then the Big Daddies will use railway rifles and I have the submersible power armor on, making them also very formidable foes. But once you eventually do clear this place out, you'll have access to a ton of really cool armor and some really cool weapons, and a nice supply of railway spikes, which are pretty hard to come by in the vanilla game. But if that wasn't cool enough, there's actually another mod that just came out today that will add on to this, and that is the Submersible Power Armor Bioshock Inspired Editions by Babel 631. Now this is going to add some additions to the old Submersible Power Armor mod. More specifically, this is going to add a new vendor as well as the Rivet Gun from the Bioshock franchise, and the Rivet Gun will be carried by the Big Daddies in the little rapture area included in the SPA mod. But it also works with the Big Daddies in Vault 120 mod that we just showed off. So now whenever you go and clear out Vault 120, not only will you find Big Daddies and Big Sisters, but also the newly added rivet gun from this mod, which I think is super, super cool. Gives you a really nice reason to go down here. Aside from just the cool player home, you're going to get access to a new weapon as well as some really, really cool armors. The rivet gun is honestly pretty bare bones as a player weapon. There's not a ton in the way of modifications. There's not a whole lot you can do with it, though it is pretty strong, but it's definitely really cool to see it on the Big Daddies where it belongs as they one-hand this thing in their massive suits of armor. I think it looks really, really cool. It makes for a really fun experience to go into this new vault. Definitely even cooler than the original Vault 120 mod. So if you're a fan of Bioshock, I highly recommend picking up these two for some really, really cool new experiences in the underwater vault. But with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Some really cool mods this week, some definitely interesting ones with the addition of Zetans as well as Bioshock Big Daddies, but still really, really cool stuff. Modders are still producing some amazing content for us. If you want to try any of these mods, they will be linked down in the description below, along with Xbox links if there are any available. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating. Consider subscribing if you haven't already for more videos just like this. Be sure to leave a comment if you picked up any of these mods for your own load order. And a very special thank you to all of my patrons for supporting every single video. And a huge thanks to Captain Chaos, Helljumper, Indecisive Wolf, Jackie, Noid, Timmy76, Cushy, Moonlit Gamer, Feed, and Youth RC for joining that Tier 3 Patreon membership. You guys are awesome. If you want to support the channel on Patreon, it will be linked in the description below, but it is completely optional. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!